Salute the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. I was actually expecting more room for politicians than what we got, because there was, I know there was some of y'all that the last, what was it, Friday night, at the community center that the Chamber of Commerce put on. It was very good speaking, and we had a lot of the folks out there running for office, and I was expecting a few more of them to come in tonight. I had invited them at any rate, and there are a few here, and we do appreciate that. And I'm hoping that Brad, your opponent, will be here toward the end, so we can have our little county commissioner debate. It'd be nice if Jerry Duncan would show up, but that remains to be seen. Also, for the Republicans in the House, on May the 5th, we're going to have a Republican meeting, probably right here. We're going to get together. That's the one prior to going up to the convention. Personally, I think the convention may be interesting this year. Everything the Republicans have done has been interesting and somewhat showed, but it's been interesting. So you folks remember that? That's May the 5th, particularly if you're already slated to become a delegate. And if you're not, they may slate you. We'll just have to wait and see.
What time does that start?
It will, usually it starts at 6 because we have a potluck. I don't know what's planned this time, and the meeting's by 7. But that's what we usually do, and I'm going to assume it's going to be the same. I'm just one of the Indians in that, and thank God for that. Okay. Now, like I say, what I'm planning on doing, I was thinking there was going to be more candidates for office here tonight. We were going to have to say, hey, let's keep it to 3 to 5 minutes on your talk, but there's not. So we're just going to go on with who we have, our invited guests. Going to hope that the county commissioners candidates come on in. If they don't, Kenneth, you're going to have an open field, and you can have, they're going to get to grill you. You get
Where we are.
There's a reason for everything we do. But at any rate, the ground rules for this, like I say, I was going to ask them to do, keep it 3 to 5 minutes. We haven't got that many here. So, Justin, fire away when I call you up. I guess you talk.
I'll take a seat.
You're right here close.
I'll get ready.
Right here close. But at any rate, I was going to call Morgan up first because I done had him slated.
Well, go ahead.
Say a few things to you, and I'm not going to do it. Drawn that monologue tonight, and I'm sure you're Morgan Hobson, independent, or state representative.
Hello, how are y'all doing this evening? It was a pleasure to be able to speak with y'all tonight and tell y'all why I'm running for state representative in District 19. First of all, I'd like to kind of tell a little bit about myself and how I got to the point where I am running. Okay? I was born in Antlers, Oklahoma, in 1982. I was raised here, graduated from high school here in 2000. I joined the Army. I went to Iraq. I came back in 2005, and I used my GI Bill to go to college. I went to Southeastern, graduated in 2010. Then I went to the University of Oklahoma, and I graduated in 2011 with a master's degree. I'm an adjunct professor at Murray State College since 2010. I'm married. I have 5 wonderful children. Like many of us here, though, our roots go deep. We've been here for a long time, for generations. And we look around at our communities, and we see problems. We see our infrastructure falling apart. We see our healthcare system is under attack. We see our education system, our schools are under attack because of budget cuts, because of budget deficits. Like many of you here, I'm concerned. I'm concerned for my children. and my grandchildren. I'm concerned for your children and your grandchildren. I'm concerned for us right now. What's going on with the economy where it gets worse and worse every year? There's a cut. How many times have we seen where the school's budget has been cut and the teachers are having to decide whether they spend money to get extra things to help the students in the classroom or whether they buy stuff for their own kids at home? We see it all too often. But I refuse to believe that it can't be better. I know that we can come together. We have a work ethic in this district, in this community, as good as anywhere else. There's no reason that our quality schools should be graduating high talent and they should have to go to Oklahoma City or Tulsa or Dallas and move away from their families because there's no jobs here. There's no reason for that. What we need to do is shore up our budget. We need proactive leaders in our legislature. Not where we're reacting because the problem's already there. We have to be proactive. We have to see and look and say, what's going on? What are these problems? Let's listen to the people. Everybody, you've talked about it, right? At your church, you've talked about it with your family. At a Thanksgiving, oh, things are getting bad. This is going wrong, right? The legislatures up in Oklahoma City, they know what's going on, but they're not listening. They're not paying attention. I will always listen. I will always pay attention. And just like I fought for your freedoms in Iraq, I will fight for your freedoms and I will fight for your opportunity in Oklahoma City. Right now, we have a $100 million deficit in our Medicaid budget. This is going to affect Antlers. This is going to affect the whole state. There's 3.9 million citizens in Oklahoma. Okay? Now Medicaid has 789,000 people that are on Medicaid in the state of Oklahoma. 500,000 of those are children. 269,000 of them are seniors and disabled. But yet they're not going to put the funds in. We have a rainy day fund. It was established in 1985. It was called the Constitutional Revenue Fund. Why? Because we experienced the same problem then that we're experiencing now, where we didn't have the funds in place. We didn't have the revenues coming in. So we established it. Right now, there's $385 million in that fund. $385 million. We're $100 million short in Medicaid. We're, I think it's close to $52 million short in our education budget. Our DHS is about to take, they've already taken $1,200 been cut. They got more coming this next fiscal year. Why? Why do we have these cuts? Why is this going on, right? This is what we're all asking. Well, oil and natural gas. They got cuts. Matter of fact, let me pull it up here. Let's see. One of the proposed ways that we could plug this hole in the deficit is we could end the recent tax breaks to oil and natural gas companies that was never meant to take effect under such massive revenue failures. It's estimated this would bring in an extra $300 million in revenue every year. We could repeal or delay the most recent cut to the top corporate tax rate. It was never intended to take place in the midst of massive revenue failures either. That's $147 million a year. Right now they're proposing a $1.50 cigarette tax hike. They say that's going to raise $182 million per year. But it's not enough support in it to get it through the legislature because they're bickering. they're bickering back and forth about my party and my party, Democrats versus Republicans, when the people are the ones that's gonna suffer. Right here, we've got Choctaw Nation nursing home down here at the end of town. We've got another one right over here. That's 44 jobs at that one, another 50 at this one. That's $1 million in wages that gets paid out over there. Another 1.2 million right here. Then you've got this very hospital we're sitting in right here. 77% of all the hospital's revenue comes from Medicaid. Did y'all know that? 77%. But yet we're going to do a 25% cut. Our hospitals have been struggling, making cuts, moving nurses out, doing whatever they can to stay alive, all in rural Oklahoma. But they make this cut, we're going to lose our hospital. We're going to lose our nursing homes. They're making the cuts. Our school just had to go to a 4-day week next year because there's not enough money for the kids to go to school 5 days a week. You're telling me that we're not going to invest in our children and their future? I don't know about anyone. But I'll tell you myself, and I'll tell you that most of the people in this room does not want to live where you can't go to the hospital in emergency, where your kids can't go to school, where when your family members get older, you don't want to have to take them out of state to put them in a nursing home because there's not one available here. We can fix this. It's not rocket science, it's just common sense. Practical solutions. I thank you for your time tonight. I thank you for your involvement. And I ask for your vote. I ask for that because I want to go and be a voice in Oklahoma City for the people of District 19, for the people in Antlers, for our children, and our grandchildren, and our communities, because we deserve better, and we can have better. Thank you.
We do have time for questions, if they-
All that.
Yeah, we do have, since we didn't have all the politicians here, I thought we were gonna have, we do have time for a question or two if y'all care to ask it. And remember, we're all being filmed, it will be on the internet, so it's just some publicity out there, guys. Yeah, he may answer everything they had on the mind.
Well,
All right.
yes, sir.
All right, on that $1.50 cigarette tax,
Yes,
is
sir.
that per pack?
That would be, it's proposed, I think per pack is what it's proposed.
All right. That is gonna make a lot of people quit smoking because they can't afford it. That's gonna bring down the revenue.
I agree, that's why it's not getting as much support up there, it's because it's not a practical, you're trying to relate something that you have to have a constant revenue in on something that is a commodity. That's not gonna work.
It's stupid. And they haven't proved yet that it causes cancer. No more.
Thank you for your question.
I just have a quick question. I mean, if they're gonna propose this $1.50 tax hike on the cigarettes, does that mean that the Indians will have to start paying taxes, or will they still be exempt from that as well?
And that would be up to debate for them up there. I believe that's one of the issues that they're running into, is trying to get all the specifics worked out. But I
That being a
believe,
sovereign nation, I don't think.
yeah, I don't think the treaty would allow for that. But I also do believe, though, that there are better solutions. You know, one thing that I believe we should do is we should take and do a bond. If we did a bond for road construction, we could move road maintenance and construction funds over. We could move that over and free up cash flow. That way we could have around $700 million if we did a bond then our county commissioners would have money to do repair on the roads, and then we would free up revenue so that we could actually plug some of these holes. Because the problem that we'll run into is if we do the cigarette tax, right? Well, we're gonna plug it that 1 year. We're gonna plug that hole that 1 year, and then, as this man said right here, I forget your name. Nelson. As Nelson has stated.
Wilson.
Wilson. What'll happen is they'll stop purchasing, so those revenues go down. Then the next year or a year later, we're having to fill the same hole. So why don't we use common sense and have a practical measure where we can use many different solutions instead of just one silver bullet, because it's not. Let's be realistic here, okay? Our economy is extremely dependent on oil and natural gas. I mean, it is. It's one of the largest producers of our tax revenue. So we have to make sure that any solution we come up with is comprehensive. It can't just be on this one industry or this one industry. It has to be a comprehensive approach so that we can fix the problem long term, and we can adjust our budget and our financing, and it gives our legislator a chance to long-term fund our programs. Because we don't want taxes to get out of control, right? We don't want them to get to where where the money's just being wasted, right? But we also have to have schools, we have to have hospitals, we have to have our basic infrastructure in order for our society to be able to continue and for our communities to grow. I mean, there are many opportunities, especially for Southeast Oklahoma, for us to be able to create jobs down here that we've missed because we haven't had leadership. One of them is federal contracts. I believe it's 15% of all federal contracts have to be with minority contractor. Well, there's a possibility Oklahoma down here, we could be partner up with the Choctaws, and we could get manufacturing jobs right down here. We could do many different things, whether it was bottling water for sending over to our soldiers that are overseas, whether it was building desks to go for the federal government, whatever it is, we've got to look at every option. We can't just step in and say, oh, well, we fixed this one thing, let's let it go. We want to grow. We don't just want to fix the problem, we want to provide opportunity. We don't want our families to be separated. That's what's happening. Kids grow up, they have to move off to get a good paying job. They do that now. They have kids, and that family is separated, and the grandparents are stuck here, and they have to drive off, or the kids have to drive in order for the family to get together. That's not what we want. That's not the American dream. It's time to get it back. And the only way we're going to do it is with practical solutions and looking at things in the whole picture, because they don't happen in a vacuum. Yes, sir.
Just talking about the county road funds, those monies can't be bonded. They're talking about taking away $100 billion and actually trying to put a bond out through the ODOT. But you can't run county road money can't be bonded.
No, I'm not talking about bonding the county road. I'm talking about bonding for the other hole and then being able to shift that money over to help the counties.
They can't do county road funds. You can't do the bonding. That's one of the things that we talked about through our last legislative session. They can run ODOT money, and they can run a bond for, use that money and run a bond to pay that. But you can't run county road money through that same bond.
Well, that's one of the things that I've been looking at proposed right now up there, of people trying to run these different solutions through. So if that's the case, then it'll come out in the next few weeks when that proposal goes to the floor. But I'm just trying to look at everything that's available, because right now, I'm like every other citizen in this room, I'm not up there. I don't get to be part of the conversation because they're not listening to us. But any other questions? Yes, sir.
This is a question for basically a general Antlers question about bringing in some revenue here and something. What about small businesses and industry?
Okay.
Maybe somehow bringing in some industry, maybe small businesses to boost.
Yeah.
If we don't make our money here,
it's not gonna be spent.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things dealing with that we could do as, let's take for example, Choctaw Electric, right? Choctaw Electric was put in because the private industry could not and would not put electric out for this area. So that's why we had a Choctaw Electric formed, is so that we could get the funding to put it out there, right? Okay, if you go to any city that is a booming economy, say you go to Silicon Valley, you go to New York, some places down in Dallas, what's one thing that they have? They have access to the high-speed internet. They have access to that marketplace, to that global marketplace. Now, we have access to some internet down here, okay? If you're in town, yeah, you may have access to some decent internet, but our best internet here is probably the worst internet that people would throw a fit if you're in the city. So we have to change with the modern world. Instead of saying, let's buy local, how about we create an infrastructure where our citizens and our small businesses can sell global? Because right now they're missing that opportunity. Any other questions?
You discussed the problems with education. Where do you stand on funding them? How do you propose that we go about changing that so that they can go to school and they can get better teachers and we can do background checks and make sure they're being taken care of?
Yeah, like on the deregulation bill? Yes. Well, basically the first thing we have to do is we have to prioritize. We have to make sure that we're spending money where it needs to go, okay? Education, healthcare, and infrastructure should be our priorities, right? In your own home, in your own household, you don't forgo buying food because you're running short on money, right? That's a necessity. You have to have food. Well, education is a necessity. If our children and our citizens don't get an education, they remain in the cycle of poverty. The number one factor in poverty is education and opportunity. And the only way they get that is what? By having a family, right? A mom and a dad and a family. And by having an education so that they know they have the opportunity to get a job, whether it's a professional job or whether it's a skilled job, they have to have a labor that they can sell because that's part of our free market. So we have to prioritize that in our funding. We have to look at the rest of the budget. And right now our budget's a mess because of our revenue shortfalls. But we have to look at the budget and we have to cut and prioritize education, healthcare, infrastructure. We meet those needs first, then we can spend money in other places because we have to take care of our citizens and we have to provide a future.
I want to say one more thing.
Yes.
I'm not wanting to argue with any of you people about this, so don't yell at me. But the $1.50 on cigarettes, yes, that's crazy. Yes, a lot of people will quit smoking and then there won't be quite the drain on the healthcare system that there is because it does drain a lot of money.
It's a double-edged sword for us. It's like we need to get the monies, right? We need to get the money to come in, but then if we do that, it's going to go down. So then we might not have the money. That's why it's like a stopgap, but it's not the solution.
That's why we live in America, so we can make a choice, let everybody do those things.
But I shouldn't have to pay for you to make those decisions.
I don't know.
Well, I was just saying.
I don't have to pay for somebody else's decision, because if I want to smoke or I want to dip or whatever, probably gonna penalize me. Why don't we penalize somebody that say eats fatty food or sugary food, whatever the risk for obesity, diabetes, etc., let's punish them too.
Go ahead. I shouldn't have to pay for it.
Sounds like New York City to me.
Not only that, but it seems like that cigarettes are where they always hit first. And you've got people out here that are drawing welfare that have done it for a career. Their family and the family before them. And there's no drug test, there's no no kind of, specification, you have to be looking for a job, doing something for yourself, it just don't happen, they dole the money out.
You can be
That's
21
expensive.
years old and healthy and fit and just draw on welfare because you don't want to get a
You know,
job.
that's why I say that's not the real solution. When we try and tax specifically a certain portion of the public, you know, when we target them to tax them, you know, it's not in line with our values. We're supposed to all be given an equal opportunity and to have the pursuit of happiness, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, if everybody else gets the pursuit of happiness, but you don't, well, that's not living up to our values.
Well, I smoked for 50 years and it almost killed me, and I hadn't smoked in 8 months and never go back to it. But at the same time, that's where they always go first for a tax, is on the smokers. And the welfare is just, they turn a blind eye to it.
What about, excuse me.
I'm done.
Folks, we gotta let somebody else speak.
The elderly aren't gonna get care. Take down nursing.
Well, the nursing home problem is
Okay,
with
why don't we have
Medicaid.
the elderly, go to the nursing home, have each one of them shoot a legislator, go to prison, they'll get free meals, free medical.
That's kind of right.
But
Anyway, good folks,
that's-
we got another speaker.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Here we go.
Morgan got y'all all stirred up, y'all leaving now. Well,
He's a big old boy.
you bet, you bet.
Morgan Humphrey, Republican.
Morgan.
Or Justin.
My name is Justin Humphrey, and I am the Republican candidate for District 19. I'm excited to be here. Guys, just listening to this, you start to understand why it's hard to get anything done when you've got quite a few people and everybody has an opinion on how to fix things and what to do. And so you can just imagine how tough it is to get a bill passed. I've actually rough draft bills, and I've actually gotten bills passed in a legislature. It's tough. It's very, very difficult. So I will start by giving you a little background of who I am. I grew up in Lane, Oklahoma, which is just down the road. My parents were both in education. My granddad was in education. My wife is in education. So I know quite a bit about education. I knew enough that I didn't want to be in education, so I got in law enforcement, okay? So I went to East Central University. I got a college degree in criminal justice. I went to work at McLeod Honor Farm. There was not a whole lot of honor there, but we went to work at McLeod Honor Farm back then. I moved from there to Probation Pro, retired out of Probation Pro, and started to work in drug courts. I got specially trained to do drug testing. A lot of people that are in that are not as trained as I am to do drug testing. But guys, guess what? Talk to any law enforcement officer out here, and he's going to tell you 90% of the problem is drug abuse, okay? So we're talking about theft, and we're talking about any kind of crimes. So I've got a lot of experience. I was one of the first officers called to the Oklahoma City bombing. I don't know if y'all remember that when the underground prison in McAllister had 2 inmates escape. They ended up in Colgate, Oklahoma. I was picked on the team that busted in the door and went and got those inmates out of there. So I've got a lot of experience in law enforcement things, especially a lot of experience in criminal justice corrections. That's where I'm going to come at you a little bit. I got a lot of experience through family and education, so I can speak to the things that we're going to speak to tonight. I'm going to try to answer why I'm going. Each one of these questions that was brought up, if I can remember everybody's questions, I think I can. But the first thing I want to tell you why I'm running is to protect our way of life. Guys, our way of life is in danger. And I want to encourage you, whether you're going to vote for me or whether you're going to vote for Morgan, man, one thing I want to engage you is get involved. People have sat back and people have done nothing, and we have watched our way of life just about go. When we're arguing over who can share a bathroom, guys, it's been men and women for how many years? It's worked So far, why do we need to change it? Why we even argue these things? It's so silly. What are you gonna do? Place police at the bathroom to see? You know, so we're arguing about stuff that doesn't even matter when we have huge deficits and those things that we need to attack. And so here's what's happened in my opinion. The judicial branch has taken over our government, okay? And we need to pay attention to what's happening. We had 76%, if I'm not mistaken, of Oklahoma, huge vote against gay marriage. We decided that a man and woman are what we claim as marriage, and we voted on that. That is law. The Supreme Court is there to interpret law, okay? They're not there to make law, they interpret law. And guess what? We have law in Oklahoma. And Oklahoma has these laws, and every state has a law. So that's what our government was set on, that we have separate states and that we can make our own laws and that Colorado can have its law. Now guess what? Colorado has legalized marijuana, but you know what? On the federal law, it ain't legalized. So how does the Supreme Court come and tell us what is in law is not legal? By the way, it was unconstitutional what they did. By the way, it was illegal what they did. And yet, here they are doing what's illegal. We're talking about stopping something at the border that we're letting go on in our own country. Things are messed up. We need to protect our way of life. We need to start addressing the Supreme Court, in my opinion. Okay, so that's one of the things that I really want to work on. I understand the court system very well. I've worked in it 26 years. Guys, I'm an avid gun rights person. I am law enforcement, I'm a hunter, I'm a rancher, and so I stand on the constitutional rights for religion. I stand on constitutional rights for guns. I am a constitutionalist person, and I am big in that area. Okay, we're talking about education. So here is a big issue this year. It's a huge issue. And so I want to make it real clear, I am pro-education. One of the first schools that get talked about consolidating is a little old school called Pittsburgh School. If you drive around Pittsburgh School, there's a man's name wrote on it. It's my granddad. And so when you talk about, well, sentimental, hey, I'm a little sentimental on that school. Yes, there may be a time that Kiowa and Pittsburgh need to talk about doing smart consolidation, but it needs to be for both schools. It needs to be with everybody agreed. It needs to be to inspire people to do better, not to ear them down and say you're going to do it this way. Okay? So I'm not for forced consolidation. I'm for smart consolidation, but I'm for preserving our communities. Okay? So I am I mean 100% education. As I said, my granddad, my dad, and my wife. So if I went any other way, it'd be divorce and it'd be disinherited. Okay, so no question on that. Now I want to address, because you brought up what would we do, and you brought up about a tax on cigarettes. And here's the deal. I agree. When you tax one group, it's not a fair tax. We can argue whether it's healthy or not healthy. The gentleman over here made a good point. Obesity is not healthy, so there's all kinds of things we can argue on that. But here's what I want to say. A fair tax. If you taxed beverages, how many people drink a beverage in here? You drink water? Drink pop? I'd be for taxing everything but coffee. I drink a lot of coffee. No, I'd even tax the coffee, okay? But here's the deal. If you tax the beverage, you put a 5-cent tax, and I don't believe it'd have to be that big, but some of the people who talk about a 5-cent tax. It's overall, it hits everybody, and it's a lot larger than just cigarettes. So, and people will not quit drinking. That's a minimum. They won't notice it as much. So we're going to actually bring in revenue. Now this gentleman right here made a very super valid point, because guys, I'm not going to sit up here and act like I know all the points, okay? Because here's the deal. I come up with an idea, and there's some guy over here that knows the law, and he says, well, that sounds good, but here's why you can't do that. So if I don't know, I'm just going to say, I don't know, okay? Because there's a lot of stuff I just don't know. I do not have all the answers, and the answers are hard to come up with, okay? If they weren't, we would have other things, okay? But speaking to education, and where can I come up with money? One of the things when I decided to run, I went to looking at that very thing. It's not the, education's not the problem, it's not the educators. It's we have some messed up stuff and we're in a hole. We need to find the money. That's the way we need to correct this thing, okay? So one way, we've got a lake over, it's called Toka Lake. Oklahoma City came in and built that lake, so they're entitled to the water. But guess what? They took all the lands that were on the tax road. So they come in and they bought all this land and they took it off the tax road to build this lake. Now there's lands all the way around that lake. Why are they not on tax road? Why are we giving away, and basically they're getting something for nothing. And so if you talk to people around Toka, they say, well, they provide security and they provide an officer or two and a vehicle or two to work security on the lake. Well, it's their lake. You know, it's theirs to secure. It's not ours to secure. That's not them giving us something. So here's what I'm saying. Put that back on tax road. That's going to help 3 schools over there. Are there other lands like that all around here? Yes, there are. If you start looking at these lakes and other properties, one of the other things, and there's a question, did the railroads receive a pass on taxes when the land was granted to them when they came in? I can tell you they paid taxes for years and they were not complaining about paying taxes to my knowledge, and I know a lot of people in education, but we just come along and said, we're going to take you off tax road. Well, guess what? That's $50 million. You know what the supplement to education was this year? 51. There's $50 million right there that we could get back. And again, guys, I'm not understanding all the laws. There may be some laws, but that's some avenues. Those are things that I'm looking at. Taxing those people. The tax on gas that we talked about. One of the things they did, they cut has anybody heard of horizontal drilling? So here's the deal. They come in and said that's experimental. It may have been way back, but they've been doing it for years. It's not experimental. So they cut the tax to do that in Oklahoma. Well, guess what? They've got it taxed all over the place at a way higher rate. And Oklahoma's paying way down. There was a guy named Josh McKean tried to pass a bill to get that brought up. He had it evenly split, and the lieutenant governor, I think, was the deciding factor. So it went 1 vote to the oil company. So yes, that's a good idea. Possibly to run that again, it might. But guess what? The oil and gas has crashed, so that's going to be a problem. But there are ways to look at revenue and gain revenue. I want to talk to you. You were talking about jobs and creating jobs. I'm not the expert in creating jobs, okay? But I do know several people, and I try to listen and I try to educate myself to that. So one of the things that if we're going to draw jobs, and here's the deal, I said the other night, it's kind of like the fire ants. You know, they when I went to work down there in Dallas way back, and I think that was 1982 or 84, so that's been a long time back. But when I went to work down there, I'd never seen a fire ant, and guess what? They were down there, and now they've moved up here. Well, I've got a kind of an ideal that the jobs, if you watch them, they started in Dallas, and guess what? If you go to Sherman, man, Sherman has just, I mean, skyrocketed. Guess what? Durant. If you go to Durant now, guess what's happening? Jobs are coming up, and there's 3 or 4 more jobs coming across the river, what I hear. And here's the deal. I think jobs will come even further into our communities. But here's the deal, guys. We got to get ready for the jobs. Now, let me tell you what's the problem with jobs. When we had an industry, anybody remember Ethan Allen built furniture? Okay, we had a plant in Toka, Ethan Allen. They had about 300 jobs. We had a regular plant just a little bit farther down the road, had about 200 jobs. If you brought those plants back today and said, we're just going to start them right off the bat like we were, we have 1,000 more people living in Toka County than we did at that time. But do you know you would not be able to fill those jobs? Our workforce has diminished, okay?
Yeah, because they all want to draw a check for nothing.
For many reasons. For many reasons. I say that 1, people don't want to work as much. And 2, we have an epidemic drug problem. Okay, so if you talk to the business people who are trying to hire, I just talked to a group that opened Chili's, and they tried to hire people. I think they told me they had to hire 180 to get 9 because of drug tests and people who didn't work. They had about a week and they'd lose and they'd rehire. So guys, we've got to build a workforce. How do you build a workforce? Education. What's gonna draw people? You know what? Companies don't wanna come to a place where they don't have a good school, where their kids can't go to good schools, and where there's not an infrastructure, and where they're, they had this in Oklahoma City. They lost a huge plant in Oklahoma City. The mayor went out and went to that company and said, hey, we gotta know, why did we lose this thing? Guess what? He said, nobody wants to move to Oklahoma City. You know what they started doing? They started building Bricktown. They started building the canal. They started improving their highways. They started guess what's happening in Oklahoma City? They are booming, okay? So, guys, we're not Oklahoma City. I want to protect our way of life, but we have lakes, we have transportation, we have hunting, we have timber, we have water. That, by the way, I'm not for selling water, okay? 100% opposed to selling water. And so, here's the thing. We have opportunities that we have great assets that we just got to put to work, and we can bring those jobs right here to the community. My kids are 15, 12, and 10, and so I'd love my kids. I live about a mile from my parents. I live about 3 miles from my brother. I live a half mile where my wife grew up. I want my kids to live right in my back door, okay? But they got to have jobs. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. Guys, how do we fight the epidemic of drugs? How do we fix the problem with corrections? Do y'all know that corrections got a $27 million supplemental budget? Was anybody there the other night? Can anybody remember what I said that private prisons get out of that? 60%. 60% of that budget. So guys, here's the deal. If you look at a supplemental budget, it'll be a reflection of the entire budget, okay? So if it's 60% on supplemental, it's likely the same for the entire. Guys, all our money is going to that. They're paying nothing to supervise. They do a terrible job, and that goes out of state. Our money goes out of state. Here's my proposal. I'm not going to give you the whole details because it'd take too long. I actually got a proposal that would save the Department of Corrections roughly a 130 million minimum, up to possibly 200 million. It begins to do better supervision. It keeps people who have offended in our local jails. It pays our jails to keep those people here. It grows our jails. It improves our jails. They will stay a longer period of time in jail, and they don't like jail as well as prison. So they will stay a longer period of time in jail. We can put them to work out on the highways if we want to. It would improve the pay for deputies. It would improve the pay for sheriffs. So it's a pretty good plan. So if you've got questions, you can catch me later and I can tell you the details on that. But I've got actual plans that I can tell you how we can do this stuff. And the Department of Corrections and legislators actually called me because they said, hey, you're a guy that thinks outside the box, and had me up to the Capitol to present that. The last thing I want to say, there's a couple of things of just common sense stuff. Rainy day fund, I think you mentioned that, didn't you, Morgan? You know what, guys? We capped the rainy day fund. Now, we just went through the biggest oil industrial boom in the last few years. Where did the money go? Where did it go?
Yeah.
Wow, we're broke, okay? Now, one of the things was we had a savings account. Guess what? They capped it at $600 million. Now, for me or you, $600 million sounds, hey, okay? But for the government, not so. Just the Department of Corrections, that would just barely cover their whole budget, okay? So when we're talking about $600 million, why did we cap that? We should not have a cap on the rainy day fund. If we go through another economic boom, we ought to put money back in there. We ought to save, we ought to save, we ought to save. And then if we do have a rainy day, hey guys, we could have $200 billion in there. It wouldn't hurt us, okay? You can never have too much savings, in my opinion. And so that's one of the ways that we could help, is take that cap off that rainy day fund. That's easy. That's easy. That's one stroke of the pen. Okay, so that'd be a true thing that would be easily passed that would help in the future. It won't help us now, but it'd help in the future. So the last thing I want to say about saving and how you really attack common sense things, common sense stuff that we can actually do. And I have been involved. I was an FOP, and if you don't know what FOP is, Fraternal Order of Police. I was a vice president for the third largest chapter in the state of Oklahoma. What we had to do was lobby the legislators up there to get things done. And so I've got a lot of experience fighting up there at the Capitol to get things done, okay? One of the things that I know, if you walk out to the back of the Capitol, we're gonna talk education again. If you walk out the back of the Capitol building, right across the street on the north side is a huge building. I'm gonna say it's about a half block wide, I'm thinking it's about 4 stories high. I don't know how long. Guess what? It's an educational building. And if you walk in there, they're stacked deep. And if you ask them what job they got, they will spout off something and you go, wow, that sounds really impressive. What do you do? And guess what? They'll start telling you and you go, man. So guys, back in the 90s, they had a situation in industry. And it was called upside down pyramid. Anybody remember that? Can you go back that far? What was happening? All these corporations had got so top heavy with administrators, they couldn't get nothing done. And they were going bankrupt because they had an upside down pyramid. And what happens when the pyramid gets upside down, you got too many administrators, you can't get no work done. Things don't flow, they don't work. Guess what happens in government? We have a upside down pyramid in all of our state government. If you walk into the Department of Corrections, that I know very well, if you go to Martin Luther King, 3400, guess what? Walk into that, they're stacked knee deep. You know why? Because they can't have enough, so you got to go over Classen, because there's another building over on Classen. They're stacked knee deep. You know why we can't get anything done out here? Because you have to call, you have to call. Now guess where all of our salaries are going? In the Department of Corrections, they actually had an administration for supervision in the communities, and they started another, what they called community sentencing program. And guess what? They started a whole nother administration and about $11 million to contract back with who? Themselves. It was a club of whoever you were, $11 million. Been telling people for years, guess what? Nothing. There's $11 million you can save right there. Now that may not sound like a whole lot in government, but in my house, $11 million takes care of a whole lot. $11 million do a lot to pave roads and fix holes and that kind of thing. Guys, if you want to look at mental health, the services don't come here. All your money stays in administration. We have top-heavy administration in every agency. I want to leave you with one last thought on that. I did a study, me personally, so this was a home-free study. Y'all take it for whatever it's worth. But when I worked for FOP, I wanted to see how many employees to how many administrators. So I had a legislator get me every one of the Department of Corrections employees. 4,800. I had a stack like this. I had to go down to a convention in New Orleans where I was picked as a state delegate for the Fraternal Order of Police. On the way down there, I got in the back seat. I got a red marker, I got a blue marker, and I got a, I think it was orange or some color. And anyways, what I did, I marked administration, those I knew was administration. I marked those that I didn't know. So I had unknowns, and then I had officers, okay? When I got done, I took the unknowns, because I didn't, and I added them with the officers, just to say employees. And then I divided that, and I come up with 1.8 worker, so not 2, 1.8 to every administrator. Guys, now that was several years back, at least 10, 12 years ago that I did that. I don't think it's improved. It may have improved a little bit, but when you have that problem, and that's the problem that we have in state agencies. So if we want to fix and save a lot of money, we need to trim. Don't start talking about consolidating schools. Let's talk about consolidating state agencies, okay? And again, we're talking about making it work better. In my plan, we don't fire people. We just move them back down to where they're needed at the bottom instead of having too many at the top. So I'll be happy to take any questions. I think I answered your question. Hope I answered your question. Talk to your question. Your question's pretty hard. It's going to be tough to bring. Yes, it is very complicated. But I think I answered every question, but if there's any more, I'll be happy to address anything I can. Yes, sir.
Tell me about your plan to house sentenced inmates in county jails. Do you see be able to get that passed? Because I imagine private prisons are going to fight that tooth and nail through their lobbyists, etc.
There's two groups that's going to fight my plan. The first group is going to be private prisons. Well, let me say three groups. Department of Corrections probably ain't gonna like it because again, anytime you shift the power, when you refocus money, guys, whatever you wanna do, it's so if you wanna keep people from going to prison, you gotta refocus that money. And so that's the thing, when you're refocusing money, the people who got the money ain't gonna be happy. So the Department of Corrections, private, and again, under my plan, the district attorneys are making a lot of money for supervision that they really aren't doing. I don't want to take away from the DAs. They will squall and say I do, but I can show them, and I've kept the paperwork to prove it. So I've done the study on myself. It's another Humphrey study, but before I ever come out with this, I did a year study myself on how well they collected. And under my plan, we will take monies and we will fund the jail. We will fund the court system. We will fund the DAs, and we will actually do supervision in our community by self-funding, more drug testing, working with the police to do actual supervision. These people waive their rights to some things, and we need to be supervising, not just for our community. Guys, if you're on probation, you have a drug problem, you need help, and you need to be held accountable, or else you're going to end up in penitentiary. So it helps them as much as anything, but it helps us all when we do supervision like that. And it's way cheaper. You're talking about like $2 a day compared to $50 a day. We also have treatment places where they have to work for their own. They have to work, get up, and they actually pay them back. And so it costs us nothing. So we can start housing people in the county at half the price. We can put them in treatment where they have to work for their own treatment and pay, and we have them locked up off the street for $0, and we can supervise them, and they pay that 100% themselves. So it's a win-win. It's a self-funding operation, and so and we've had people look at it. There's other places doing it. We can do it. I promise you. That's a real brief. That's really brief because this is a pretty big plan. It's about 22 pages long. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I have a question. Okay, Oklahoma is a supermajority Republican state, and Republicans are supposed to be better with money than Democrats. So how do you think we got to this point where we are in the state right now with all the budget trouble?
I want to answer that question with I talked to a lady last night that guys, one thing is I got a sense of humor. So if I ever offend you, because I say stuff just off the cuff, okay? So this lady was like, you know, the Democrats said elect the devil if they put him on the ticket, the darn Democrats, you know? And I was like, yes, ma'am. And 5 minutes later, she turned around and said, I wouldn't vote for anybody but a Republican. And I want to say, what if it's a devil? You know, and so you know what I'm saying? Here's the deal. I was having to sit over here and go, keep your mouth shut, ma'am, can I have your vote, you know? So here's the deal. I will tell you this. I am not a huge party man, okay? I am practical. I am for protecting our public. And if a Democrat has a good idea, then I'm for the Democrat. If the Republican has a good idea, then I'm for the Republican. I left the Democrat Party because, wow, I couldn't stay put, you know. I told the group, was that Friday night we spoke? Yeah. I told the group there, the last straw for me is when they lit up the White House to make it look like the crack house and they had the rainbow color. I said, all right, I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? So here's the deal. Under the Bush administration, you know, why did Obama get elected and why did we have that problem? Because Bush left us in financial straps, okay? Own it. The Republicans got to own this thing, okay? They can't blame it because they've got the House and Senate. They have to own it. And so here's the deal. Do you know that Governor Fallon come out? It was my understanding, now you'd have to check me out on this, but she wanted to increase some of the state budget this year. 1.3 billion in whole, and we're going to increase. It's not a time to increase. It's time to pull up our belts and be conservative with our budgets, okay? And again, I don't always agree, but guys, I'm going to tell you this. For me, it's less about Republican and Democrat. It's more about rural versus urban, all right? So if you get up there at the Capitol, that's what you're going to start hearing. You're going to start hearing rural versus urban. And I will tell you this. If you look at the Republican Party in Washington, we've got a gentleman here who knows more about that than I do. But again, that's what the American public is mad about right now. They're not happy with any party. And so I think that as the American people and we the people, that we have to send a message, and we have to say, we're tired of misappropriations of funds, and we're tired of the court system not listening to the people. And I guarantee if we'll stand up, and guys, you know what I said a while ago about inmates? Hold them accountable, and it's good for the community. If I'm up there, you hold me accountable. You hold me accountable to be physically conservative with the budget. You hold me accountable to come back to educators, because I don't know everything about education. I need to check with my educators. I don't know everything about ranching. I know quite a bit. Know little about DHS. Check with the police departments, what's going on with them. So I need to be held accountable, whoever goes. If Morgan goes, I'd already told Morgan, I said, dude, if you win, I'm gonna be all over you. I'm gonna be up here all the time. And he said ditto, and I would expect him to. We're gonna become good friends before this is over, and we're gonna help each other regardless who wins, because we are both engaged, and I congratulate you to get engaged. I wish I was pretty engaged at a young age, but it's good to see other young people getting engaged in the process. That's what it's gonna take. Any other questions? I can go on all night, promise.
We got other people. We don't, the only sheriff's candidate we have here tonight is Jim Scott. And since this is gonna be on the internet, Jim, just come up there and introduce yourself, say a word. You know, that's the thing, that those that did not attend tonight is gonna miss out on some free publicity. Right there. Jim Scott, candidate, independent.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna keep this brief since, as Bush has alluded to, we don't have any other candidates here tonight. My name's Jim Scott. About fourth generation that my family has been here in Bush County. I'm a 1985 graduate of the local high school down here, Antlers High School. Attended law enforcement training Cleat in 2001, was up there when the buildings were bombed. That made quite an impression. I'm not going to make a bunch of campaign promises that I can't back up, but I am going to tell you that we're going to work within the funds that we have to be able to do increased patrolling, increased responses. Citizens are not going to be able to make complaints and a deputy not show up to their house to take paperwork on it to investigate this to the best of our ability. We're going to do the best that we can do with the budget constraints that we have, but you will get response. You're not going to be left hanging. We will respond 24/7. That's just all there is to it. That's what we're here for. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Well, another interesting fact, everybody that spoke tonight so far, we're going to see in the fall, because it's independents and a Republican. So we'll see them in the fall, and you Democrats are going to have to fight it out a little bit. We're going to see you in the fall. Eddie, you got anything you'd like to say? Mark Wayne Mullins rep? If you do, come up and say it. And I know you're brief.
Guys, the ones that don't know me, I'm Eddie Dempsey. I'm Phil Rupp from U.S. Congressman Mullins. I come here quite often. I always see new faces here, so that's the reason I enjoy coming up here. And this is kind of my second home. I have a deer lease just north of town, so I like to come to Antler. And the congressman's on that deer lease too. So, but anyhow, no, it's just we just wrapped up a couple weeks ago all of our town hall meetings. He done all 26 counties, and a lot of the questions y'all shared tonight took over our town hall. It wasn't about basically about Washington. It was about the state, education, and welfare. And last Wednesday at KKBI, they does a monthly radio interview, and this come up on that radio interview. And on my way bringing my son, by the way, my son goes to school at Rat-10, so I have a lot of parcels in Bush County. We had, it was come up, and he took off his legislative cap and become a parent. He said, Oklahoma needs to get their priorities straight. First one's our security, our cops, and I'll take care of our cops and highway patrolling, this and that. The second one's education. Until we do that, it's going to snowball. But other than that, But do y'all have any questions for me? Thank you.
Well, that was easy, man. I usually talk to Eddie a couple, 3 times a month. I think it's been 30 days since you had that conversation.
It has.
So, well, no, because we talked right before Mark went last time.
Right, yeah, we did.
Okay, that's good. Eddie's always been a good friend of ours. He's always wanted to ask questions. Call him anytime you want to, or you feel the need, and buttonhole him out here before he gets gone if you have a question that you just didn't want to ask in open meeting. Feel free to do that. And, you know,
Like I said, I'm around all the time. You can ask Michael, I try to make our CED meetings, which is our county commissioners, and, I'm all about rural Oklahoma. I mean, I live here amongst you. The ice storm, I fought that with you. The floods, I'm still fighting. You can ask Michael, I'm still fighting for him over that deal.
And we appreciate you. Tonight, the big deal was gonna be a little Q&A with the county commissioners. You notice I had 3 seats set up here, you know, District 2. There's gonna be a race there. And it's gonna go to the fall. We have a Republican that's not here tonight. Brad, what's his last name?
Forget.
Spell that. Okay, don't spell that. Brad was all I could get. But at any rate, Kenneth Clegg is here, Democrat, running for District 2 County Commissioner. Kenneth, come up and talk to us a little bit. Introduce yourself. And I want you to know we appreciate you. And like I say, this is going to go to more than just this room. Pretty soon we'll be live streaming. We're not quite ready for that yet. We're getting there. Kenneth Clegg.
Well, I'm Ken Clegg. I've lived in this county for 18 years. Done business here for probably 25. I'm brand new to this, folks. Scared to death. You hadn't noticed that already. So, I've been in the construction business for over 40 years. Water line construction, sewer line construction. I've did jobs here in Antlers and all over this county. Most of them were pretty large jobs. I worked with Mike a little bit when he first went into office on one of his projects. And, I don't know much about being a politician, but I think I do know how to get things done. And, it takes work. I think it takes everybody working together. You know, most everybody seems to think that the people are here to serve the electorate. I think it's the other way around. I think we need to be serving the people. I think that's what our job is, if we're doing what we're supposed to do. We're working for the people, and I think we all have to work together. We have to team up. You know, a lone wolf don't get much done. And I don't know much about all the other duties of the commissioner's office. I'm going to get some women here pretty quick. I'm working on that. But the construction business, I know. I think that really, I think it's a disgrace, some of the roads and stuff we have in this county. And, you know, if you don't have the funds, and I know funds are limited here and there, there's always something you can do, you know. You can fill a pile with some dirt if you have to for a little while, you know, till you get something better. And I just think with the resources this county has, right now, I manage a water company down at, you want to talk about water, I manage a water company down at Smithfield. Biggest project to Oklahoma so far, $25 million project. And it goes all the way from Ho Chi Town up through Smithfield and all up that area. The thing of it is, they're booming down there. They don't have any more resources than what we got here. We have lakes, rivers, we got the hunting and fishing, you know, the wilderness areas where you can go, do the trail rides and all that stuff. Why are we not, you know, achieving the potential that we should be achieving like they are? We got to pull it together and pull it in, you know, and I don't know exactly how to do this yet, but I'm working on it. You know, you got to start somewhere. And I don't know exactly what all it takes to do everything that needs to be done. But one thing I do know, you have to work at it. You have to have a good work ethic. You know, and I think I told everybody last Friday night that, you know, you have to be productive with what you have. You know, you can't send your crew out there to do 2-hour job, it's gonna take 3 days, you know. That's not a very good, reduction of your resources there. And, I just, I think I have the leadership and the abilities to take this county forward. District 2, work with the other 2 commissioners and make this county a great place. Really bring it up to achieve the potential that I think it deserves. And that's just about all I got to say tonight.
Well, anybody have any questions for Kenneth? Okay. I'm gonna pass the hat here, folks. It's a black one. And make sure it gets back to you. Anybody have any questions for Kenneth? I think old Mike here would probably tell you when he first got started, there's a lot of stuff he had to learn too. But I'm gonna tell you, he's done a good job.
I'm gonna learn from Mike.
Okay, and you couldn't do any better than that. Well, if there's no questions, folks, and this opportunity, and remember, since we know that there's gonna be some elections in the fall, there's gonna be some competitions in the fall, we're gonna have some of these people back to talk to us again, and hopefully in a position where we can set them up in front of us, and you can really grill them, Jenny.
I'm worried about storms and leaving my kids in Choctaw County, so everybody got a pass tonight.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I do have some resumes I want to leave over here and some cards, so just feel free to.
Feel free to help yourself. There's also some information on the problems the nursing homes are having now, finding funding and whatnot over here, or brochures. Be sure to get them when you leave, if you're interested there, and we all ought to be interested. Larry Johnson, did you have anything you'd like to say to everybody?
Well, I'm just glad that everybody's here tonight. I'm just sorry.
Why don't you come up here and get on camera, man?
Yeah, come on.
Or you don't get to stand up here and move my mouth.
You want the free location there, Larry?
Get up there,
Trying to
Larry.
hide from the camera.
But I'm just glad everybody's here tonight. And of course, you've heard me say many times that we need more people to come out and get involved. We try to keep everybody informed the best we can. And as we go along, we'll start giving you some bills and stuff like that. If you need to keep track of the bills that are coming up in our state senate, in our state representatives, because they're passing some good bills, and there's some good bills that's not being passed that could be if we would call and write our legislators in the state here. Because now, whether you believe it or not, they pay attention to our phone calls, our emails, and our writing letters. They pay attention to that. But they won't if we don't do it. And people, I'm telling you, you can become involved and make a difference, or you can stay home and not make a difference. I went to a program last night down at Hugo that talked about the Black Robe Regiment back in the Revolutionary War. And it was pastors that got their congregations to get involved. And the British say that they're the ones that won the war. If it hadn't been for the Black Robe Regiments preaching to their people to get involved and leading them into the battlefields, that Britain would probably have won the battle. And I'm not talking about getting in the battlefield as military right now. I'm talking about getting in the battlefield because, folks, we're in war. I don't know whether y'all realize it or not, but we've got tyranny running out our ears in Washington, D.C. And if we don't stand up and start doing something, it's going to be too late. Now, folks, I'm telling you, you better get yourself away from that TV set and get up off your hunkers and start making a difference in your community. I'll tell you what, last night, I handed out, I don't know how many invitations to that little deal down there last night. And I talked to more people than that. 7 people. I probably handed out 50 invitations myself, besides talking to probably another 100 people. and 7 people showed up. I mean, we had about 300 people there, but I mean, 7 people that I invited showed up. Because they had, whatever reason, they didn't show up. I got so inspired at that meeting last night of talking about, the guy that put on the presentation, talking about what the pastors did. They left their congregation and took the men and went into battle. And folks, we better do that today. We better get into battle. I'm telling you. If y'all don't realize what a state this world and this U.S. especially is in, you better wake up. Because, I mean, our U.S. government is rotten to the core. And it is taken over our country. They actually believe, they've been there so long, some of those old heads up there, they've been there so long, they think that we work for them. And they're acting that way. And folks, we better take our country back. And the way we do it is start right here, locally, and then we work our way up. But become involved. You will be surprised how much you enjoy getting involved and get off of that couch and away from that TV set and get involved. I mean, there's all kinds of meetings and things that you can do if you just will. But apathy is eating us up alive. And you've heard me preach this now. How long have you been involved in this Tea Party, Butch? 3 years?
If only that long, probably about 5.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been involved in it, I think about 5 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, I've been involved in it 5 years, and that's what we fought ever since we started, is apathy in this community. And everybody says, why don't we have businesses? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Well, somebody's got to do something. And I have tried, folks. I mean, I have tried. I've got on every board. I've tried to start everything I can start to bring business into Antlers, and it's a fight. It is a fight, and that's okay. I've never backed up from a fight yet, but it's time that all of us, not just some of us, but all of us get involved. I respect these people that's running for office in this county. That's not easy. That's not easy. I know Ken Clegg, I've known him for a long time. And that was not easy for him to do tonight, to get up there and talk. But he did. It's not easy for him to stand up and jump off into something that he knows very little about, but he's got a man here that he can learn from. And he knows that. And I told him, I said, that's the man that you hang on to his shirt tails and he'll teach you how to run the county commissioner's job. Because Michael's done a jam-up job, in my opinion. But you've got to get involved. Don't feel like you can't make a difference, because you can. One person can make a difference if you'll just stand up and try. I mean, find out what these bills are that they're trying to pass, or the ones that needs to be passed, and get involved in nothing else, making phone calls and writing letters to your congressman. That makes a difference. They listen to that. But I'd just like to thank everybody for being here tonight. And, you know, I get on my soapbox quite often, you know. But I appreciate you being here, and I just, you know, talk to your neighbors, talk to everybody, get them involved, get them to come and you know, we do this once a month. That's not asking a whole lot, to come and get involved and learn what's going on and maybe participate a little bit by making a phone call, writing a letter or something. But get involved. How many of you know that Antlers has got a new mayor? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
Yeah, Antlers has got a new mayor. You know, I didn't see it in the paper. It might have been.
It wasn't, I couldn't get any answers as to why it happened.
Well, have you got any yet?
No.
No, you won't.
No. I have pestered everybody that'll talk to me.
But I heard a rumor he's wanting back. No, don't print that.
That wasn't what I was talking.
No, but really, but we need to get involved, know what's going on in our town.
It wasn't important business. That was what I was told from City Hall. It wasn't important business. So that's why there was no major announcement made.
That's not important.
As if,
It wasn't
the- if
It wasn't newsworthy.
the mayor resigning is not newsworthy?
I kid you not.
That's
what I was
crazy.
told.
Anyway, that's what I'm talking about.
put that quote in the paper then.
Yeah, you gotta make sure what we had anyway.
If we get involved, if we make, how many of you has been to a school board meeting this year? How many of you has been to a city council meeting this year?
Somebody has, yeah.
This is, yeah, I know Michael makes all of our meetings. This is what I'm talking about, people. I mean, they make decisions in these meetings that affect all of us.
How many have you been to?
I've been to all of them that I can.
I was just curious.
How many have you been to?
I ain't been to none of
I'm talking about.
I ain't lying.
Well, here's my question.
I went to some commissioner
About
meetings,
about
but it wasn't
the
this
city
fiscal year.
council meetings, we don't technically live in the city.
Exactly.
We live outside of the city.
Oh, I know.
They don't want to annex us so we can run for a position.
That's right.
So, you know, you run into that double-edged sword that
That's
they've
true.
got.
That's true. That's true. And that's,
They don't want us involved. They don't like us.
but anyway, I have got, the ABA is a Antlers Business Association that we started a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it is, to try to generate business, get people to support Antlers business, and do events that brings people in that we may get taxes off of it. Because we've lost some tax bases, as most of you know, in Antlers. So I have, the ABA has decided to try to get a rodeo arena in Antlers. And so I'm going before the city council, the next city council meeting, to present our case and see if they will lease us some land out at the industrial park to put a rodeo arena. And so so if anybody got any pull with the city council, and are interested, you might call them. Because I've called several cities or towns that have rodeo arenas and have rodeos and functions at the arena, and they say it makes a great economic impact on their city. And so I've talked to the city manager, and he said if I can get it past the city council, he's behind us. So that's good. So we'll see how that goes.
Y'all, I see Michael, the Oklahoma Southeast, you know what that is? The development group that over southeast Oklahoma. That's what the lieutenant governor was at last Thursday.
Oh, yeah, the turkey hunt.
Yeah, but it might.
I heard they had a turkey hunt, but I didn't know it.
See, that's what everybody hears,
It's for
is the
the
turkey,
government.
but
Yeah.
it's for developers. They bring developers all over the country to our part of the world. And guys, the ones I see, the small communities that I see highly involved in this, growing, Broken Road, Atoka,
Seminole. Seminole, it's the Seminole city manager told me they landed 3.
He was, the guy at Seminole, he was the president of it. Stigler is another small community, really, Stigler's not much bigger than Antlers. You ought to go up there and visit that little town, see what they got going on.
Well, some of us last year, we had this economic development deal that we thought was really going to take off. So it was promoted to us, and so it was 5 of us went to a economic development meeting. It's supposed to be for the whole Tri-County or 5-county area. We went to it down at, I believe it's Podo or wherever it was. We were the only ones there from our county.
Well, I understand. Like my little town, it drives me bad if nobody shows up. We have resources like y'all.
Yeah.
And
like Justin said, and Morgan also, we got all the resources.
I'd gripe me about it all the time. I said, you go. Well, and I talked to a councilman, he goes, no, I just stayed out there. Why do you out there helping cook and fish? You need to be in there talking to them people, selling your city. Yeah. They'll come down here and develop. But I built some wrong people, I would say that.
Well, anyway, I need to get somebody's phone number or something and talk to somebody to But anyway,
I can give-
I just thank everybody for being here and excuse my soapbox tirade, but doggone it, get involved. If you want this town to grow and this country to grow down here, get involved, do something, get up off the couch and do something.
First thing I thought of when Justin mentioned that, he's been talking to Larry Johnson. That's how you get involved. Well, folks, I tell you what, it's been a good evening. I believe I counted myself, 28 people here tonight. We've had a good one. Next month is the sheriff's. Hopefully, we can get him here. But if Jim's the only one here, by golly, he's gonna be up there and asking questions. But, anybody, any politician that misses out on an opportunity to get in an open forum on the internet is making a bad mistake, I'm thinking. There's gonna be, how many people have we got, regularly coming to our site now? Shasta, what,
We
20?
had 3 more hits today.
We've got 24,000 on the website, and then Facebook's grown
Oh, that's how 2,400.
2,400, sorry, 2,400.
2,400, this town has what?
I'm just adding zeros, I'm just gonna keep adding zeros.
Okay, so folks,
Like the federal government does with the deficit, I'll just keep adding some zeros to the end.
that's one thing. Once again, thank you all for coming out. Come back next month, it'll all be interesting.